What if the one detail everyone brushed past is the exact thing that blows this case wide open? For nearly 2 weeks, Nancy Guthrie's alleged kidnapper has managed to stay out of reach. No arrest, no confirmed suspect, just silence, speculation, and a growing sense that something isn't adding up. Most people are focused on the obvious, the disappearance, the search efforts, the dramatic headlines. But investigators may be staring at something much smaller and much more dangerous. It's not the getaway. It's not the location. It's not even the ransom demand itself. It's how the message was delivered. Because instead of keeping communication private, a ransom note reportedly ended up in the hands of the media. That move alone changes the psychology of this entire case. Criminals trying to stay invisible don't usually invite cameras into the story, unless they want attention or control, or they're confident they won't get caught. And that's where things get unsettling. According to discussions on the Two Angry Men podcast, hosted by Harvey Levin and attorney Mark Garrigos, federal investigators are said to be intensely focused on that ransom letter, for reasons that haven't been made public. Not the demand, not the theatrics, the letter itself. That suggests there's something in it most people aren't seeing. A phrase, a pattern, a mistake. And if that tiny detail connects to the mysterious Bitcoin emails that followed, this case may not be as random as it first appeared. Because sometimes the loudest part of a crime isn't what someone shouts, it's what they accidentally reveal. The ransom note didn't just demand attention, it redirected the entire investigation. When TMZ reportedly received the letter, it immediately raised a red flag. Most kidnappers try to limit exposure. They avoid unnecessary channels. They control communication tightly. So why loop in a media outlet at all? That decision feels calculated, almost staged. And that's exactly why investigators are said to be dissecting every line. On the surface, a ransom note is simple. Demand money, threaten consequences, set terms. But seasoned analysts don't just read what's written. They study how it's written. Word choice, sentence rhythm, emotional tone, even punctuation. Those tiny details can reveal education level, background, stress patterns, sometimes even whether the writer personally knows the victim. Reports suggest the FBI is laser-focused on this letter, not just as evidence, but as a psychological blueprint. That kind of focus usually means one thing. Something in that message narrows the field. Was the language too polished, too casual? Did it hint at insider knowledge? There's also the possibility that the note wasn't written by the person who physically carried out the act. If multiple people are involved, one might handle logistics while another handles communication. And if that's the case, the letter could expose the weakest link in the chain. And here's where it gets more interesting. By sending the note to a media outlet, the sender guaranteed public pressure. That move shifts leverage. It forces law enforcement to move carefully. It amplifies fear. But it also multiplies scrutiny. Once something goes public, it doesn't just get read by investigators. It gets analyzed by thousands. And criminals who crave control often overestimate how clever they are. If the ransom note was meant to intimidate, it may have done the opposite. It may have handed investigators exactly what they needed, a linguistic fingerprint hiding in plain sight. But that wasn't the only message that surfaced, because shortly after the ransom note made waves, a new voice entered the picture, and what he claimed would complicate everything. Just when the ransom note had everyone locked in, a second layer of chaos surfaced. An unknown man reportedly sent TMZ not one, not two, but 3 separate emails, and he wasn't vague about what he wanted. Bitcoin, in exchange for revealing the identity of the kidnapper. That alone is suspicious. If someone truly had critical information, why not go straight to the authorities? Why try to monetize it through media? That move doesn't scream concerned citizen. It screams leverage. But the real twist wasn't the demand. It was the wording. In those emails, the sender referred to the kidnapper as the main individual. Main individual. That phrase changes the dynamic instantly. You don't call someone the main anything unless there are others involved. Was that a careless slip? A psychological tactic to inflate the drama? Or an accidental confirmation that this wasn't a solo operation? Reports claim federal investigators are digging into those emails hard. Metadata, IP routing, device fingerprints, writing style comparisons against the ransom note. When two anonymous communications appear in the same case, analysts don't treat them separately. They test for overlap, similar syntax, similar phrasing habits, even consistent spelling patterns. And here's the uncomfortable angle. If this email sender is connected, even loosely, he may have just inserted himself into the spotlight at the worst possible time. Digital trails are difficult to erase. Cryptocurrency demands sound anonymous, but communication channels rarely are. On the other hand, there's another possibility. What if he's completely unrelated? An opportunist trying to cash in on chaos. High-profile cases attract attention seekers, people who want relevance, control, or quick money. But even that scenario creates risk, because if he fabricated details, investigators can quickly test whether he knows anything real. And if he does know something real, that opens an entirely different door. Either way, that phrase, main individual, refuses to go away. It hints at coordination, and coordination means planning, which makes what happened next even more intense. Then came the move that caught everyone off guard. Late Friday night, law enforcement reportedly launched a dramatic operation tied to the case. Lights, urgency, tactical presence. It looked like the kind of action that signals a breakthrough. But by morning, no public arrest, no official suspect in custody, no victory announcement. From the outside, it felt like a dead end. But that's rarely how these operations work. When authorities mobilize like that, it usually means one of two things. They believed they were close, or they wanted someone to believe they were close. Tactical pressure is a strategy. Flush out a reaction, force communication, trigger panic inside a group if more than one person is involved. And remember that phrase, main individual. If there are multiple players, a sudden show of force can create cracks. Someone gets nervous, someone sends a message they shouldn't, someone makes a mistake. Just because the operation didn't end with handcuffs on camera doesn't mean it failed. Sometimes the real objective isn't the immediate arrest, it's surveillance expansion, it's data collection, it's watching who calls whom when news of the raid spreads. There's also another possibility. Authorities may have been acting on something specific. A digital trace, a purchase record, a geographic pattern tied to the jacket and backpack that were reportedly identified. If that lead didn't pan out, it still narrows the field. Every no eliminates space. And here's what most people overlook. When law enforcement moves publicly and comes up empty, suspects often relax. They assume they're safe. They lower their guard. That's when mistakes happen. But inside Nancy's home, investigators may have already found something that makes this entire operation more strategic than it appears, because buried in the forensic details was something no one expected. Inside the home, investigators reportedly found something that doesn't fit neatly into any simple narrative. Unknown DNA. Not confirmed to belong to Nancy, not immediately matched to anyone publicly identified. Just a biological trace sitting in the middle of an already volatile case. That changes the temperature instantly. DNA isn't opinion, it isn't speculation, it's physical presence. It means someone was there. The real question is when and why. If this were a solo act, unknown DNA complicates it. If there are multiple individuals involved, it starts supporting that possibility. And suddenly, that phrase from the Bitcoin emails, main individual, doesn't sound so random anymore. But here's where it gets tricky. Homes aren't sterile environments. Friends visit, service workers enter, deliveries happen. So investigators won't jump to conclusions. They'll test, compare, and eliminate. Family members, known associates, anyone with legitimate access. Only after that process does unknown DNA become truly suspicious. And that process takes time. Forensic labs analyze profiles, run them through databases, and check for partial matches. Sometimes results come back fast, sometimes they take weeks. But once there's a hit, everything accelerates. There's another layer most people overlook. If the crime scene was staged in any way, DNA can expose that. A staged scene often leaves behind traces that don't align with the supposed timeline. a misplaced fiber, a secondary profile in an unexpected location. Tiny contradictions that unravel big stories. And if multiple people were involved, coordination increases the chance of contamination. More movement, more surfaces touched, more opportunities for mistakes. Which makes this moment critical, because if that DNA matches someone already under quiet scrutiny, this case shifts overnight. And if it doesn't match anyone in the system, then investigators may be looking at someone who's never been on their radar before. Either way, that single forensic detail could confirm or completely dismantle the working theory. But while labs run their analysis, another clue sits in plain sight, one that looks ordinary, almost forgettable. And that's exactly why it matters. Sometimes the biggest clues look completely ordinary. In this case, it's a jacket and a backpack. TMZ reportedly identified the outerwear worn by the alleged kidnapper as an Athletic Works Fusion knit jacket, a brand sold at Walmart. The backpack? Also believed to be a widely available retail item. At first glance, that feels like a dead end. These aren't rare designer pieces. They're mass-produced, affordable, sold in huge quantities across the country. Thousands of people could be walking around in the same jacket right now. So how does that help investigators? Here's where it gets more strategic. Mass market items create noise, but they also create data. Large retailers track inventory shipments, store locations, timestamps, security footage. If investigators can narrow the geographic window of the suspect's movement, they can cross-reference which stores carried that specific batch. And if the suspect paid with a card, even better. Now, let's be clear, there's no public confirmation that authorities have tied a purchase to anyone specific, but clothing becomes powerful when layered with other evidence. A jacket was seen on surveillance near the scene, a backpack matching footage from a parking lot. Combine that with cell phone pings or vehicle tracking, and suddenly, generic isn't so generic anymore. There's also psychology at play. Choosing common clothing can be intentional. Blend in, avoid standing out, looks like anyone else. But criminals who lean too hard into average sometimes underestimate how modern retail ecosystems work. Cameras are everywhere, parking lots, entrances, self-checkout lanes. And if more than one person is involved, as that main individual phrase hinted, coordinated shopping increases exposure. Two people buying similar gear in proximity? That leaves patterns. Even something as simple as sizing can narrow a suspect pool. Height estimates from footage, build comparisons, fit of the jacket. Ordinary objects become identifiers, which raises a bigger question. Was this carefully planned to appear random, or are we looking at someone who believed basic disguise was enough? Because when you stack the ransom note, the Bitcoin emails, the unknown DNA, and now the retail trail, a pattern starts forming. And the people connecting those dots publicly are watching closely. The phrase that keeps coming up is simple: laser focused. On the surface, that sounds dramatic. But when federal investigators zero in on one specific piece of evidence, it usually means they see something the public doesn't. According to discussions on the Two Angry Men podcast hosted by Harvey Levin and attorney Mark Garagos, the FBI's attention isn't scattered, it's concentrated. And not broadly on the case, but sharply on that ransom letter. That tells you everything. Investigators don't obsess over documents unless the document narrows the field. Language analysis is powerful. Experts break down vocabulary, grammar structure, spelling quirks, and punctuation habits. They compare it against known writing samples, emails, social media posts, text messages, anything legally accessible. And here's the part most people underestimate. When someone writes under stress, their natural patterns leak through, even if they try to disguise their tone, even if they intentionally misspell words, even if they copy phrases from somewhere else. Consistency or inconsistency becomes measurable. There's also contextual analysis. Did the letter reference details that weren't public? Did it imply knowledge of Nancy's routines? Did it reveal timing that suggests surveillance beforehand? Those subtle cues can shift a case from random act to targeted event. And if that's the direction investigators are leaning, the implications are serious. Being laser-focused also means withholding information. Authorities often keep critical linguistic details private to avoid tipping off suspects. If the writer realizes what gave them away, they adjust. So silence from officials doesn't mean inactivity. it often means strategy. Now, connect that with everything else. A mysterious Bitcoin email sender is hinting at multiple individuals. Unknown DNA under review. A public-facing ransom note was delivered to the media instead of kept private. It doesn't feel chaotic anymore. It feels layered. And when layers start overlapping, investigators look for the weakest signal, the point where planning slipped. Because no matter how calculated someone believes they are, communication is risky. It leaves a trace, tone, identity markers. If the FBI is truly locked onto that letter, it's likely because something inside it connects to someone specific. And if that connection solidifies, this entire narrative could pivot in an instant, which leaves one final uncomfortable question hanging in the air. Now, step back from the noise for a second. Strip away the headlines, the tactical raids, the speculation online. What does this actually look like? Because when you line up the pieces, the ransom letter sent to the media, the Bitcoin emails referencing a main individual, the unknown DNA inside the home, the mass market clothing potentially traceable through retail data, this doesn't feel random anymore. It feels intentional. But intentional doesn't automatically mean sophisticated. Here's the bigger question no one wants to confront. Was this a carefully coordinated operation or a messy plan already cracking under pressure? If it's a single mastermind, they've taken bold risks, involving media, escalating exposure, and inviting digital tracing. That suggests confidence, maybe overconfidence. If it's multiple people, coordination becomes fragile. The more individuals involved, the more pressure points. One panics, one talks, one makes a sloppy digital move. And when that happens, cases unravel fast. There's also a motive. Was this financially driven, personal, a grievance disguised as ransom? Investigators don't just follow evidence, they follow psychology. And psychology rarely stays hidden forever. If the ransom letter contains an insider tone, that shifts the case towards someone within proximity. If the DNA matches someone unexpected, that rewrites the timeline. If the Bitcoin emails trace back to someone connected to either party, that collapses the illusion of randomness. Every path leads to only two outcomes. Either this was far more personal than it appeared, or someone believed they could outsmart a system built to dissect details. And here's what history consistently shows. Criminals rarely get caught because of a big mistake. They get caught because of the small one. A phrase, a purchase, a digital breadcrumb, a biological trace. Right now, the public sees fragments. Investigators likely see patterns forming behind closed doors. The real shift won't come with a rumor. It will come with a match. And when that happens, the entire narrative, who planned it, who helped, who knew, could flip overnight. So the question isn't just who did this, it's those who underestimated what they left behind. Because if even one of these threads connects, this case won't stay unsolved for long.